Okay, so my var is given a value 6, and then I basically show my var. This like hashtag or number sign, this is a comment. So this line isn't actually going to run. It is part of our code chunk, but it's not something that is going to be evaluated or run in the code. This I guess apostrophe R means that we're creating a code chunk, right? And this is no longer just text. Like this is text, but this is not text. This is a syntax that we use to assign variables. And so once again, I can run this using this button, or depending on what computer you use, you can like find the keyboard shortcut. So to run region, to run the chunks, okay, so that I'm being covered by the BB Collaborate thing, but for me it's like Command Shift Enter. For you it might be different. It might be Control Shift Enter. So just you can look into here and figure out what the keyboard shortcut is, or you just click the play button. In R, variables can take on different types, so different data types. I'm just going to add that in there. In the example above, 6 is a number, and so it's a numeric type. Some data types in R are numeric, so numbers like 1, 7, 9.4, negative 456, these are numeric types. You can also have strings like hello world. You can have a vector and you can have a data frame. Okay. Here I'm going to create another code chunk. So in this code chunk, I ran eval equals false because when there's something called knitting your R Markdown file. So this whole file right now is an RMD file, which stands for R Markdown. And basically when I'm done with my code, I can knit this into a nice like PDF file that I can share with people, right? Eval equals false basically makes it so that this chunk's code isn't run. And I added it because my code isn't complete, so it would give me an error message. But we're going to fill it in now. So I've created something called my num. That's my variable that I want. And I'm going to give it some number. So let's say 9. My str or my string, let's make it like hello. Hello, this is a string. And then my vec, let's say I want to give it a vector of like 1, 2, 3. For vectors in R, you have to put a C and then put whatever vectors you want inside. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My data frame is something that you have to build using vectors. So let's say I make another vector. Let's say my vec2. Oops. And I want to give it values -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. My df is going to be a data frame. To make a data frame, you have to do data.frame. If your column names, so let's say I want to call my first column v1, and I'm going to give it this, right? And this is my vec. My column 2 will be v2, and I'm going to give it this, so my vec2. Let's try running this. Okay, so it ran. Now I want to see what they actually are, so let's run this portion of it. When I ran my num, it gave me 9 because that's what I assigned it to. The second thing that it shows is my str, which is my string, and it says, hello, this is a string, which is exactly what I assigned it. My vec is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's see what my df looks like, or my data frame. So it has a column called v1, a column called v2. Under v1, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is basically what was in my vec, right? And then v2 is just the negatives of all of those because that's what I assigned it to be. My vec2 was supposed to be a vector of -1 to -6. Another thing, if you don't want to keep running everything in here, you could run it in your console. You can already see that it's already being run in your console, but let's say I want to create like a new variable in here, but not in my R Markdown. I can do it in my console. So think of the R Markdown file as a notebook. Everything that you write in the R Markdown is going to stay, right? It's going to stay in that notebook. You can't like quickly erase it or anything. And when you knit your R Markdown into a PDF file, when you build that PDF file, it's going to be used in that code. Okay, your console is more like a whiteboard. You can try different things out. It's going to save in the memory, but it's not going to knit into your PDF. Oh, my DF, it can't show. Okay, can you explain echo? Yes, echo basically is, echo says whether or not this chunk of code is going to show in my PDF file. Okay, I do want to go one step at a time and I'll show you what happens when we knit it. Actually, I can show you right now since I feel like it's kind of useful. So what I can do is I can knit this, click knit, and let's see what happens. So I basically get like this really nice looking PDF file, and it is not showing you because I'm sharing the application. Hold on. Share content, stop. I'm going to share my screen. It's going to look slightly messier. Okay, but this is what I got. So let me show you that again. I'm going to knit this RMD file, which is like a file with code. And what it does is it knits it into like a nice PDF file that kind of looks like a report. Right? And where I put echo, the code shows. So here you can see that this is our code, right? This isn't just like regular English that we're using, but it's showing because I put echo equals true. Okay. So that's what that is. Any questions? Okay. So back to the code. Let's see what our variables look like. They already did that. So as I said before, if you don't want to keep running everything in here, like if I don't want to run this whole thing, if I don't want to create a new, okay, like let's say I just want to look at my num, right? That would mean that I would have to create a whole new chunk and then put my num in there and run this chunk, which gives me 9. But I don't want to have to create a whole new chunk. I literally could just type my num in the console and get 9. So this is like an easy way to just check things like quickly. What's the difference between eval equals true and echo equals true? Okay, eval equals true means that I'm evaluating that R chunk. I'm actually going to like do whatever that R chunk says. Okay, if eval equals false, that means that I'm not actually running that. Echo is whether or not you see the code. Eval is whether or not you run the code. Okay, so now that we've gone over data types, let's talk about basic mathematical functions. Whoops. Okay, so in R you have like the regular mathematical functions that we use, like addition, right? If I do 4 plus 2, 13 minus 6, 3 times 9, etc. This is an exponent. So this is like 5 to, this is an exponent. Okay, so what this gives is 4 plus 2 gives 6, 13 minus 6 gives 7, 3 times 9 gives 27, 10 over 3 gives 3.333, 5 squared is 25, the square root of 9 is 3. Okay, these are just some examples of functions in R. At the same time, I can also do them in the console. So like I can do 7 times 7 in the console. which gives me 49. 9 over 10 gives me 0.9. Floor division. So you might be thinking Python like the 3 dash dash slash slash 2 or something. That's floor division. Here we don't have that. We might be able to do floor. Yeah, so here the floor function is just floor. Okay, so maybe we can go a bit slower. So I'm basically just trying to show you, don't worry about floor division. Floor division is basically after you divide, you round down to the nearest integer. This document will be shared, it's already being shared with you. It's on the RStudio Cloud, and it's also on Quarkus, and I'll add more comments just to make it more clear. But yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. I think it'll get better after a while. Okay, you don't understand the interface. All right. Okay, then let's start. Let's backtrack a little bit. Okay, this whole RStudio Cloud is like a whole platform for you to code, for you to create reports after you code them, and like just build reports and stuff in here. This section that I'm scrolling up and down, that is where you are going to write your code. This is where you write your code as well as the text for your report. So the idea of using this, which is an R Markdown file, is that you can write code in R and you can also create reports from it. This is not going to be all Excel. So the course focuses on statistics, and we do all of our examples in R. This is what we are going to be using throughout the term. So this is the R Markdown file. Like whatever you write here is going to be turned into like a report kind of thing. This is where you have files that you can like point to. Here you can see what like variables you've built, things that you've made, things that you can refer to. All right, and I'm just going through like what you can do in here. So the first things that we talked about was like what even is a variable? And a variable is just like an object that you have in here. So a variable can be like my var. It can be ABC. I can give ABC a value of like 10. Then ABC is a variable. Your assignments will have R. Your homeworks will have R. Your quizzes might have R. It's very possible that your quizzes might have like short questions about R, like easy questions, but there will be questions on R. And this is not auto-saved, so you have to save it yourself. All right. And also, in addition to just having it on cloud, I would recommend that you even like maybe just copy your code and save it on your computer, because there have been cases in other classes where people have lost their work. Can you show us how to assign variables? Yeah. Okay, so to assign a variable, let's give the variable a name. Let's say the variable's name is, I don't know, clown. I want to give clown a value of 10. So this is clown. Clown is 10. Let's say hat is given a value of 3. And this is hat. Hat is 3. What is 3 times 10? I can also do what is clown times hat. That also gives me 30. Because clown has a value of 10 and hat has a value of 3. So when they're multiplied, it gives 30. 1 is just like the line of output. So because I'm only outputting one thing, that's why it's giving a 1. So the R markdown file and the R console are different in the sense that the console is just to like write code, and the markdown file is also used to build your report. So notice here when I knit it again, and let me show you this, right? So my title is here, my name is here, and this corresponds to what I wrote in the R markdown. Let me just split my screen, right? So this is my, what is a variable? In my report, I see what is a variable. I have my code chunk and I said echo equals true, which means that it should show in my report. And here it is, it's showing in my report. Okay, and then this is text again, so it goes back to text. And so on and so forth. Right. Oh, I don't want full screen. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to continue with the math part just to keep an eye out for the time. So these are basic mathematical functions. 4 plus 2, 13 minus 6, etc., etc. It's going to give me the answers. So this is like using a calculator, but using R for it instead. Okay, and then in R, we also have vectors. So a vector, you can think of it as like a list of numbers or a list of things. So let's use our vector myvec. So once again, what does myvec even look like? Myvec is a vector that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? We can add to every element. So if we do that, will the calculations show in the PDF? Yes, the calculations will show in the PDF. As long as you like evaluate it and as long as you show it, like if you do echo equals true. So I'm just gonna put here echo controls if will the code be shown, and eval controls will the code even be run. So let's use our vector myvec. R does this thing where you can like change every vector. You can basically transform it. So let's say myvec plus 2. Let's see what that gives us. And I'm going to run that in the console because I don't want to run this whole thing. myvec plus 2. As you can see, 1 became 3, 2 became 4, 3 became 5 because we're adding 2 to every element. Okay. What if I subtract from every element? So I can do something like myvec minus 3. In my console. So the first one went from 1 to minus 2 because we're subtracting 3. And then the last one went from 6 to 3 because we're subtracting 3. And all of these elements have subtracted 3. The console is this. So as you can see, it says console here. Console is basically everything in here that I'm running. This is just like code. It's just plain code. I'm not using this to build my report or anything. None of this is going into my report when I knit. The hashtag or the number sign is to comment out this line so that when I run this chunk of code, this is not going to be run. Yes, it is for commenting. I can also double every element, so I can do myvec times 2. So that's myvec times 2. And just as a recap, myvec is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Can divide every element, so myvec divided by 2, just for fun. Myvec divided by 2 is going to give me 0.5. So it went from 1 to 0.5 now. It was 2, now it's 1. 3 is now 1.5, etc., etc. You can also do indexing. So let's say I only want one element from my vector. So myvec, once again, looks like this, right? So I'm in the console now. My vec looks like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say I want the first element. I would put brackets, and I would say, okay, my vec 1. So I can see, okay, the first element is a 1. Just to make this a bit more clear, so let's create another vector. So yes, let's create another vector. Let's say this is new vector. I put the arrow and the dash, the C, bracket, bracket. Then inside I can put all the numbers I want in this vector. So let's say I want 10, 3, and 7. Okay, I'm gonna do this in my console. So I'm assigning new a vector that is 10, 3, and 7. Now I can see what it looks like, and it's 10, 3, and 7. If I want the first element, I would do new vec 1. It gives the first element, and it should give 10, right? Because 10 is the first element. Let's try that. And yes, it is 10. So there you go. If I do new vec 2, it should give the second element, which is 3. Let's try that, and it indeed gives 3. Okay, change an element of the vector. Let's say I don't want this to say 10, 3, 7. Let's say I want to change it to 10, 3, 30. So I want to change, let's say we want to change 7 to 30. Actually, let's say 33 just to be fun. Okay, then that means new vec 3 is the one that we want to change. And I want to assign it another value. I want to assign 33 to it. Let's try this. Copy, paste. Now let's look at new vec again. And it's 10, 3, 33. Okay, we can also calculate the mean. So this is where we are going to go more into the stats of it. So far, we have basically been looking at like data types. So we've been looking at data types and like how to use R. Now we go into the stats. Okay, at this point, I would like to do a poll to see if you are confused. Or how difficult you think it has been. One is easy, 5 is hard. So I'm gonna 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, so I will try to find some like introductory R video and just post them on Quarkus. And yes, I do agree that you will probably need some introduction to this. I think it's important though to show you the RStudio Cloud platform because this is what you will be using. It's okay if you don't have CS knowledge, it's not a prerequisite. So that's why your feedback is so important. I need to know like where we need to like slow down, where we need to speed up. Our homework will use R, so that is why it's important. Okay, and I have put this on the Quarkus webpage, so you will be able to use this. And this lecture is recorded, so you can always look over this and practice. Will this week's homework have R? It might have really basic R, like maybe something related to what I'm showing you right now. Would we be able to do homework on R and then upload it to the cloud? Yes, you should be able to upload it to the cloud. Is it the same if you downloaded it? If you download R and RStudio on your local computer and just code from there, that is fine too. But yes, I will warn you that your homework throughout this term for my section and the other section, so this section and the other section, like we are collaborating, so our homeworks are supposed to have R. So it's really important that you guys understand this part. When you are assigning a new value to a certain element in the vector, is it aliasing or fully changing it? Do you need to assign it in the command prompt to actually change the value? Let's see. If you run something in your R Markdown, it automatically runs in the console, so it does change it. But if you're knitting, that doesn't do anything to the console. Like if I click the play button or the run button in each chunk, right? There was like a simultaneous thing that happened in the console, so the code is running in the console. Will we be submitting the PDF from R for assignments? Yes. What's the difference between this and that? Okay, so let's find a spot for this. Okay. Okay. This assigns values. This also assigns values. But sometimes when you're writing functions, they do different things. Okay, so I would recommend using the arrow. There's also a difference between these two and the double equal sign. The double equal sign checks to see if two things are the same. Okay, and that's an additional data type, a Boolean data type, is true or false. So if I do something like, so let's see, my var 6, right? My var is 6. So if I say my var equals 6, this checks to see if my var is 6. Now it should return true because my var is 6. Okay, so it's true. Now let's say I did the same thing, but I changed it to 60 instead. Now it's checking if my var is equal to 60. The double equal sign means that we're checking to see if two things are the same. Single equal sign means that we're just assigning a value. Okay, my var equals 60, it returns a false because my var is 6. Okay, so I'm just going to add that to the R Markdown. So, Boolean values. Okay, here's another difference. The hashtag that is in the white space just makes it so that this is a title line. Like, you know how you have like subtitles and titles in a report? This hashtag makes it so that this is a title. Okay, so for Boolean values, my var, I'm going to give 6. Given a value of 6. My var equals 6. Checks to see if my var is 6. And this should return true. If I check to see if it's 35, check to see if my var is 35, this should return false. Okay. A Boolean is a type of variable, and a Boolean value is true or false. So like a numeric value can take on numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. Boolean values are true and false. So I can, for example, give, I don't know, house true. House is a Boolean type now. So if I run this line, right, and if I put house, house is true, it is a Boolean variable. Okay, so we went through vectors. Basically, vectors are like, just think of it as a list of numbers, like a column of numbers. Actually, this is a good idea. How many of you have you taken, what's it called? Linear algebra. No, okay. That makes sense because most of you are probably in like first year or beginning of second. Okay, that's fine. So just think of a vector as a list of numbers. So just think of vectors as a list of numbers. Because, okay, when we when we are doing like data sampling and we collect data, we will have like a list of okay, so my Wi-Fi died. These are things that come with online courses. Can you guys hear me now? Yes, okay. Perfect. All right, so I understand that a lot of you are probably confused, and I will post some resources on Quarkus for you later, so just check that out. Also, if you have questions, there's Piazza, there's Quarkus discussions, and I will also hold office hours. All right. I also wanted to just let you guys know that today's lecture is taking a bit longer than I expect. Typically, our lectures will not be so long. It's just that I spent a lot of time on like syllabus. So don't be scared. What is the best way to practice later? Should we be creating a new file or creating a new space? Okay. The best way for you to practice is to code in R and to use this platform. Right? So in RStudio Cloud, I have posted this. You can make your own copy. The copy that I'm using right now, if you can see, there's like a bear in the corner. This is the avatar that I use for my student account in RStudio. So what I see right now is exactly what you will see when you log in. So you can do exactly what I am doing. If you like watch the recording of this lecture over again, you can do exactly what I'm doing. So I think that is the best way for you to practice. Will R be on today's lecture quiz? I did not put it on today's lecture quiz because I expected there to be a lot of confusion. So don't be so worried about today's quiz. Okay, so it's really helpful once you get used to this platform. Exporting a PDF. Yes, I can export a PDF of this. Like the pros of using this is that I can knit it. So here's the knit button. I can knit the current document and oh, there's something that is not done yet. So there you go. My var is given 6. My vec is not found. Oh, okay, so I'd probably change something up here. Anyway, it's not knitting because something is off. Like there's an error somewhere. Yeah, it's line 90. So I'm guessing this one isn't running. Eval equals false. So I didn't evaluate that chunk for now. But the pros of using R Markdown is that like once I finish coding, I can directly knit it into like this nice PDF file that covers everything. And I've been putting comments down so that you know what's going on. Okay, so I would recommend that you also look over this. I am going to go a bit more, just a little bit more into like how to work with vectors. I was going to go into like tidyverse and plotting today, but I think I've overloaded you with like enough information for one lecture, right? So let's just finish this last section up and then call it a day. And we'll continue on Wednesday. But okay, to calculate the mean of my values. So as we can see, okay, let's use NuVec. So NuVec, I'm going to show you in the console again, is 10, 3, 33. Now to calculate the mean, there's a function, it's a built-in function in R, just mean. In the bracket, you can put what you want to take the mean of. I want to take the mean of these 3 numbers. So I'm going to put in NuVec. Okay, let's copy that, paste it into my console. Oops. Oh, see, there is a typo. Mean of NuVec is 15.33. Now let's do this manually. If we were to calculate the mean manually, it'd be 10 plus 3 plus 33 in brackets divided by, how many numbers are there? There are 3 numbers. All right, that gives us 15.33. So it's the same thing. If we were to do it manually, calculate the mean, we could do 10 plus 3 divided by 3. I can rearrange it to sort it. So let's say I want to sort my vector, sort NuVec. Copy that. I'm running it in my console. I get 3, 10, 33. Now it's sorted. The smallest one is 3, then 10, and 33. Right? Let's calculate the median. Just by looking at this, we can see that the median is 10, right? But let's try calculating the median of NuVec. Copying it into my console, and I get 10. Okay. Minimum, there's a min function. Min of NuVec, it's going to give me 3. Max of NuVec, going to give me 33. Will the sort function rearrange the position of the numbers? It rearranges them and it shows you them in increasing order, but it will not save it into the memory. So you see how when I sort NuVec, it shows 3, 10, 33? Now let's say I want to show it again. If I call NuVec again, it's still 10, 3, 33. Like that hasn't changed. It just shows you the sorted version, but it doesn't change the actual variable. Shows a sorted vector, but does not change the vector itself. Okay, we can calculate the standard deviation. So this is actually going into the stuff talked about in the lecture earlier. Standard deviation is SD of NuVec, and that is going to give me 15.69. Variance is var of NuVec, 246.3333. Have another question. Can you assign the return value of the built-in variable to a variable in R? Yes, you can. So, like, okay, let's say variable of NuVec is this. I could equally just assign that, like if I want to save that number as something, right? Let's say I want to call it like save vector. I can assign it to, I just have to find a name, use the arrow key thing, and then assign it var new vec. Now if I call save vec again, it's 246.333. Now, something you might be interested in based off of the earlier part of our lecture, quartiles. Okay, so to find the quartiles, what you can do, I'm not sure if there's a built-in function for quartiles. Let's see, but there is not. Okay, so to find the quartiles are like 0.25, 0.5, and 0.75 percentiles. So what you would do is, let me just write this because it's hard to code and talk at the same time. Okay, so new vec. There you go. So there's a quantile function that you can use. The first thing that you need to put is the vector, like the data that you want to find the quartiles of. Okay, so I had some questions before. Why did we cut the data into 4? Why did we cut it into quarters? Because we're looking for our quartiles. A more general percentile is just a quantile. Like if we want to cut our data into like 10s or 5s or 15s or something, those are just quantiles. A quartile is just specifically a quarter, so specifically cutting it into 4. All right, so new vec is the vector that we want the quartiles of, and the quartiles are basically the 0.25 percentile, the 0.5 percentile, and the 0.75 percentile. Are the 0.25, 0.5, and 0.75 percentiles, or just to keep things consistent, quantiles. Okay. So here we can find that the first, what's it called? The first quartile, Q1, is 6.5, Q2 is 10, and Q3 is 21.5. Another way to do this is to just do a summary. You can do a summary of the vector. This will give you actually more information. So you see the 5-number summary that we talked about? You have the minimum, you have the first quartile, you have the median, which is also the second quartile. This gives you the mean, which is not part of the 5-number summary, but it is still really important. The third quartile and the maximum. Okay, so if you have these, you can build basically the unmodified box plot where the whiskers go to the max and min. What is the C before the bracket? This means that we're looking at a vector. Okay, so this is the vector of quantiles that we want. We want the 0.25, 0.5, and 0.75 quantiles. Okay. You can find any quantile as well. And since we had such a long discussion on the 1468 example, let's just do our example. Let's give it 1468. What were quantiles of it? Our example was 1468. Summary of it, the first quartile is 3.25. The median was 5, and so on and so on. I just realized you can't see it either now. Hold on. There you go. Okay, so if you want like a quick way to find the 5-number summary, just do summary function. Number summary and mean. Can we make top-level functions in R to calculate stuff? Yes, you can build your own functions. Okay, so that's that. There's no built-in function to calculate the mode. All right, and I was going to import data, but I feel like this is a good place to stop for now. So let's spend the next 15. Are there practice questions for R on Quercus? I would recommend going through this. I have exercises down here, but I think it's better if we continue on Wednesday. I'm going to go back to my slides actually for a second. And okay. So we got set up in RStudio. We will learn to use RStudio Cloud and R Markdown. Tidyverse will be for our next lecture. ggplot will be for our next lecture. Do we need to save R Cloud or autosave? You should save. You should save just in case. I've heard of other courses where people lost their data, and because it's like online, you should be extra safe and try to save locally. Okay, examples and application. I will go into next lecture because I was going to come up, like I have like a data set and we were going to go into it, but I think it's better if we save it for next lecture. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to do these. Let's just say these are learning objectives for this week. And then suggested readings. I would recommend Open Intro Stats Chapter 2. This textbook is free and it's available for download. So look at that. And we also have the UFT STA220 modules. So visit this link and it basically has like video tutorials that cover things that are similar to what we covered today. Okay. I'm going to go back to the R Markdown now, just to go over what you guys have questions with. So right now, let's go into a brief office hour kind of thing. If you have questions, ask in the slide and I will answer them. Can we learn how to make a function? We can. I think it might be something for the next few lectures, or a few lectures now. The first homework assignment is not due until week 2. The first homework assignment is due May, I think, 17th. So it will be released around May 10th. So this week you do not have a homework due. This week you have a quiz due tomorrow night, actually, after this lecture. And you also have a quiz due on Thursday night. File, save, and I can access. Let's see. If I click File, Save. Okay, so remember how at the beginning we had a temporary sign here? Since we saved it, I'm pretty sure it's not temporary anymore, so let's just see what happens. Let's say I leave this and I come back. So let's say I save this, I leave, and then I come back. So this was the professor's. So the one without the bear is the instructor account that I have. This is my student account. Let's go back. Okay, it's opening. And let's see if everything is still there. Yes, this was new. Newbeck was new. Our example was new. Everything is still there. Are the quizzes cumulative? They might be. Our expectation is that you stay on top of the topics and you're able to answer questions from before, but typically quizzes will cover the immediate lecture that just happened. I understand that this is possible to choose group members. It was, okay, so it's not definite, but I don't think that you will be able to choose group members. It was a collective decision between me and the other instructor, as well as some instructors in the department. The lecture slides were on Quercus before the lecture today. So make sure you keep an eye out on Quercus. I posted them, I think, around like 1 p.m. today. Are the suggested readings something we should definitely do? They're suggested, so I would say you don't need to read them, but they're a good idea, especially like, so if you're confused in a particular section of this lecture, right, touch up on it. I think the suggested readings touch up on pretty well. Any variable defined in R will also be defined in the console. We don't have to redefine anything in the console. Yeah, anything that's run in R Markdown will automatically run in the console, so you don't have to redeclare it. However, if you're not running anything in the console and you just knitted stuff, when you knit it and the code runs, that doesn't run in the console. Okay, so if you run a chunk like so, like if I just click like that, then this thing runs in the console. But if I just open this and I didn't run anything, just knitted, then that would not be saved in the console. Where can we access the PDF about RStudio? It should be on Quarkus. So let me just find Quarkus. Okay, so in Quarkus modules, under lecture 1, I have added, let's see what I've added. Okay, so it's not there. I'll just knit whatever I have so far and I will add that there after the lecture. Generally, when will the lecture notes be posted? I'll try to post them as soon as I can. Keep in mind though that this is a very condensed class, which also means that I have to like make the slides in a pretty short amount of time. So check before lectures. I will try to make them like for sure before lecture starts. But yeah, like they should be there before lecture starts. I don't know like how early. When I save, can you upload a new PDF to all the commentaries you've added so far? Oh yeah. So the things that I've changed so far, I'll add that to Quarkus. When I save and repo open, everything is there, but it's not shown as everything being a single color. I'm kind of confused about what that means. So if you maybe rephrase that question. It doesn't need to be saved in the console. Does that have anything to do with the final PDF? No, you just need the R Markdown to work. Just run the R Markdown and knit it. You don't need to have you don't need to run everything in the console first. Are we able to access a copy of the R Markdown of this lecture? Yes, it's already there. Oh, you mean like the updated one? If you mean the updated one, it's not there, but the original copy that I opened today with you guys, it is there already. It was there before the lecture. So just go here to RStudio Cloud, make an account, sign up, and then you can make your own copy just like how I did it. Come in the blue text. Okay, I think with the issue of it being like just one color now, that might be because you have some of like, I'm just gonna write here, some of these things out of place. If you have these three picks, then it should differentiate between code chunks and like the regular code, and then text. Any other questions? Yeah, you guys are free to go. I'll just stick around for a little longer just to answer any questions. Yes, R itself is not a pretty placed code. RStudio is a lot better. So here I can show you what RStudio looks like. As you can see, I made my slides in RStudio. And this is what my RStudio looks like. So this was like making slides. This is lecture 1 exercises. I can actually run everything here as well. Thank you for coming and have a good night, guys. See you again on Wednesday. Console, only see console, not R Markdown. Oh, you have to open a file. No problem, guys. Hope you guys aren't too overwhelmed. Take it easy. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. So for the error where you only see the console, that's what happens when you first log in. But do you see the files on the bottom right? Click on one of the files and it should show. Click on one of the RMD files. Do we always want to change echo if we want a chunk to be shown? If you want all your chunks to be shown, you can just type it in the very beginning. My computer's a bit of a mess. Let me just hide for it. hide the sharing. Can I stop sharing? Hold on. Okay, screen 1. So if you just opened RStudio, what you will probably see is just the console covering the whole thing. What you need to do is click on the RMD file. Click on lecture 1 exercises.rmd, and that will open the R Markdown file. I'm going to close this now. There was another question. Do we always need to change echo? You don't need to change echo all the time. So here in my options at the very beginning of my R Markdown, I've added an option that sets echo to be true. So if I don't put false, then echo will always be true. All my code chunks are going to show. Okay, so this kind of makes it like a default option. Can I sync all my work on my local R software on my computer on my I'm not sure if syncing is a thing. You could try to maybe connect it. I haven't looked into that. If your Piazza isn't working, I'd recommend first you need to go to the syllabus and you need to okay, so that's not how you should join Piazza. How you join Piazza is you need to go to the syllabus. There is a link there that goes directly to STA220, and there's also an access code there. The link doesn't work. Hold on. Okay, let me see.